Okay, so this next special case that we're going to look at, this special polynomial, is sum and difference of two cubes. And if we look at the formulas, right, they're easy enough to recognize, right? You can tell that this is a cube. And then for your cube numbers, right, so like 1 cubed is 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. 2 cubed, and these things grow really quick, right? 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. 3 cubed is, you know, you can do this out, and by the time you get to 5, right, you're already in the hundreds, right? So 27. 4 cubed is 64. I'm not going to keep writing it out. 5 cubed is 125. I think 6 cubed is 216, I want to say, right? So these things get big fast. All right. So I think they're easier to recognize than some of the other ones, right? But they're weirder to factor, and the reason they're weirder to factor is because it's not necessarily an intuitive look to them. All right. So the one thing that is intuitive is in the sum of two cubes. Basically, your first factor is just a plus b. So it's like take the cube root of that and then just add them, and that's going to be the 1. But then on your second one, right, you're gonna do your a, and then you're gonna subtract, multiply a and b together, and then you're gonna add, right? And then this one, it's like, so the difference between the sum and the difference of two cubes, right? The thing that's different is these things flip, right? So on the sum, you're adding, and you should just remember there's always one subtraction sign in it, and it's before the what's going to be your b term on your quadratic, right? And don't get that confused with the ab they're using here, right? And b meaning, our general form, ax squared plus bx plus c, right? So this term. So let's just try a couple of these. I think these are going to be something you're just going to have to kind of get used to seeing. It's there's not a nice, neat, easy way to recognize them, or recognize how to factor them. Like I said, they're easy to point out. They're just kind of tricky to factor. All right. So this, right? First of all, you recognize it because you know that x cubed obviously is a cube root, right? And by cube root, we mean can I take it and undo the cube? Right? And so what do I multiply by itself 3 times to get this? Well, x, right? So the cube root of that is x. And then the cube root of 64, right? What number do you multiply by itself 3 times? Well, 4 to the cube power is 64, right? So it's 4. So in this case, my a is x, and my b is 4. All right? And so it's adding. So I know that my first term is going to be x plus 4, all right, which is easy enough. And then I know that we got a squared and b squared here, so it's going to be x squared and then 16 squared, which is sweet, right? Or not 16 squared, it's 16, being dumb, right? So 16. But then for my middle term, right, and this is always being added, for my middle term, all right, all you do is you just multiply a and b together. You just go boop, boop. So we get 4x, right? So we get 4x. And because I added on this one, I'm going to subtract. All right? And so if you're not quite sure that this works, then just multiply it out. Just do your thing that you know how to do and multiply, right? So you get x to the third, you get minus 4x squared plus 16x. And then if I multiply this one by everything, right, you get plus 4x squared minus 16x, and then plus 64, which is your big number you get there. Well, look what happens. Your 4x squareds cancel, right, and your 16x's cancel. And then that leaves you with this x cubed plus 64, right? And so, yeah, totally works, right? So that's how you factor these out. Let's just write this out real cleanly now so we have it. So this one is going to give you x plus 4, right, for your first one, then x squared, and then going to give us 16, and then minus 4x, all right? Now this one we're subtracting, all right? So the cube root of a cubed is just a, all right? And then the cube root of negative 27, right, is or we'll just say of 27 is 3, right? So what number do you multiply itself? And if you have to, just get yourself a little chart so you can recognize these. Okay, so I know that my first factor is going to be this and this with this sign. So it's going to be a minus 3 this time. And so then we're going to have a squared, which is good. And then we're going to take this and we're going to square it. So that's going to be 9, and that's plus. And so now, because I already used my negative sign, I'm going to use my positive over here. So it's going to be plus, and then 3 times a, which is 3a. Okay, and that's how that works. All right, let's look at one more here. So we got 8p cubed minus 1. So this is basically the same as these, except that it has a coefficient, and we have to be careful with making sure we use that coefficient when we figure out like our AB term, right? And also this a squared term, okay? So my a is going to be the cube root of 8p cubed, which is, well, the p is easy, it's just p. Cube root of p cubed is p. But the cube root of 8 is 2. All right? And then the cube, my b is going to be the cube root of 1, which is, that's easy, that's 1. All right? So my first term is going to be, or my first binomial is going to be 2p minus 1, right? Because it is subtracting. So I know I'm starting with the subtraction, right? And then this is where it gets weird, is I'm not going to write 2p here, right? It's a squared. So if a is 2p, 2p squared is actually 4p squared. So I'm going to put this right here, okay? Then, all right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to also square 1, right? And that gives me 1, and this is plus. Because I use minus, here, this term's also going to be positive. And then you just multiply your a and b together. So you got 2p times 1, so it's plus 2p, right? So it doesn't like, it's not super intuitive how these work, right? But they do follow a pattern. And if you can follow it, kind of figure the pattern out and get used to it, and figure out some kind of way for you to remember it, find some kind of like a mnemonic device or something that's going to help you remember this. And then I think you'll be in really good shape. All right, so hope this is helping a little bit. All right, and we will see you on the last video here, where we're gonna look at a couple other different things.